Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Imam Al Mukarramah and I will present to you material sign language part 3. Okay, here we go. Non-manual grammatical signals in American Sign Language. Signers also use non-manual grammatical signals that include movements of the eyebrows, mouth, shoulders, head, and body to change the meaning of signs that are otherwise the same. An MGSs serve a variety of grammatical functions. One function is marking sentence types. An MGSs also function as adverbs, modifying verbs, and as adjectives, modifying nouns or other adjectives. Markedness and ASL. Most of the principles that apply to oral phonemes also apply to sign language phonemes. For instance, some sounds are more marked than others. The same goes for elements of signs. We use hand shapes. Hand shapes are found in all sign language. They are the most distinctive in their formation, and together they are used more frequently than all other hand shapes combined. They are also among the first DEZs acquired by deaf children. Redundancy and ASL. In ASL, there are also redundant situations. For instance, in many signs made with two hands, where each hand forms a different hand shape, we could predict that only one hand will move. In addition, the non-moving hand can only take one of the 6 unmarked shapes. So, if only the moving hand is fully seen, the predictability built into the system, plus the context of the conversation, normally provides enough information to understand the message. Morphology and syntax of ASL. Although fewer morphological and syntactic processes than phonological processes have been described for ASL, it seems that the basic principles of language analysis used for speech are equally valid for studying ASL. For instance, the use of three-dimensional space in ASL makes possible phonological, morphological, and syntactic mechanisms not possible in oral language. Inflection and three-dimensional space. ASL is a highly inflected language. It uses inflection to determine the following, among other things. First, number, singular, dual, trial, and so on. Then distributional aspect, such things as each, certain ones, and unspecified ones. Temporal aspect, for example, for a long time, regularly, over and over again. Temporal focus, such as starting to, gradually, and progressively. Manner, for example, with ease, with difficulty, with enthusiasm, slowly, quickly. Degree, for example, a little bit, very, and excessively. Reciprocity, indicating mutual relationships or actions. Index, changing person, references, proverbs. Although ESL is rich in inflections, the mechanisms for inflecting words differ from those used in oral language. Instead of stringing affixes to roots, ESL makes use of the three-dimensional space available to the signer, as well as facial expressions and other mechanisms. Okay, there is a question. Does American Sign Language have sentence? The answer to this is yes. The sentence is a clear unit in ESL. Utterances are typically produced within an area called the sign box, in front of the body and bounded by the waist and head, extending a few inches to either side of the body. Sentences are marked by a few co-occurring linguistic features, such as NMGSs for the sentence types, and sentence boundary markers such as eye blinks, pauses, body leans, and etc. Without the necessary co-occurring NMGSs in ESL, a sentence would be ungrammatical. Okay, so there is a figure referential indexing in ESL. The first figure is X, S, and B is X but used with me to you, and C, me to him, and D, you to me. The X is a symbol denoting a verb that has undergone indexical change, modifications of the basic one-handed sign ESK for indexing, reference to first, second, and third person singular. Social dimensions of sign language. Sign language conveys social meaning just as speech does. Maxims of conversation are the cultural expectations that guide people when they are conversing. One of those maxims in ESL is simply that only one person signs at a time. A person who begins to sign before another is finished has broken a maxim of conversation and will be considered rude. If a person walks between two people who are signing, the passing person would not excuse himself or herself, because that might bring the ESL conversation to a halt. So in this case, the convention is to just pass as quickly as possible and not distract the signers any further. There are registered differences in sign language. For example, in informal settings, one-handed signs might be substituted for the two-handed signs used in a formal setting. That is a figure is what I mean. Examples of register variation in ESL between formal and informal sign. You can look at those pictures. Formal sign for coffee and informal sign for coffee. Formal sign people. Informal. Formal sign for div and informal sign of div. Okay, we will next. Summary. This short review of ESL has made the following points, and we summarize all of the preceding statements into sentence. First, the human faculty for language is the consequence of anatomical and neurological specializations that arose during hominin evolution. Second, this faculty is not dependent on either speech or hearing. Sign language structure is based on variations in several parameters. These include hand shape, location of the sign, movement of the sign, palm orientation, and the region of the hand. Okay, thanks for your attention. Thank you very much.